This thing tells us we're live after we're live. There we go. Hey, everybody, how y'all doing today? Josh Null here with Gulf Coast Financial Advisors. We're coming to you live, both on LinkedIn and also on my Facebook business page, Gulf Coast Financial Advisors. I'm joined by Matthew Eichmann of Qualified Plan Advisors. Matthew, how you doing?
Good. How about you, Josh?
Good, good. Like you said before we got on the camera, we're going to have some fun because we're going to be talking about our 401k project, which is a multitude of projects and content and information that you and I and some other affiliated parties have been putting together over the last several weeks. We kind of soft launched it last week, and then this week we've got a bunch of stuff that has finally been put to bed. We're ready to really kick this thing off and running. I'm pretty excited about it. There's been a lot of work to get to this point, particularly by you. And so what I want to do, Matthew, is first, for those that are new to you, go ahead and tell them who you are, what your role is. And then I want to go ahead and jump into the 401k project, especially as it relates to our current situation. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Hey, great. Yeah, thanks, Josh. So I'm the National Retirement Practice Leader for Qualified Plan Advisors. And, we specialize in working with qualified retirement plans, both fiduciaries and perhaps more importantly, the participants. And, Josh, you and I work really well together in that regard, the way that your practice fits in with Qualified Plan Advisors. And what we're hopeful to accomplish here is just to be able to have a really good discussion about the practical issues that, plan sponsors are facing across the country. And so for the people who have joined us to listen, whether you're a CFO or a CEO or a business owner, or you work in benefits, or, you're an HR generalist or a specialist, I think we'll have a little bit of something for everybody here when we think about, how the retirement plans can work. And particularly, as you mentioned, this is a time like nothing we've ever experienced before. And so it's time to reimagine a little bit how we think about these issues and how we put into place new solutions.
Yeah, I think that's great. And Matthew, on that note, so one of the things that we put together first, we divided the campaign up into parts, quite simply because there's just such a volume of content normally affiliated with a qualified plan, a 401k retirement plan in a normal world. Then you throw into the mix, COVID-19, global pandemic, unprecedented stock market volatility, the CARES Act, all in capital letters. There's just a lot going on. So we decided to divvy it up into parts, into silos or chapters, and then to disperse it over the series of the next several weeks, culminating in a webinar on August 20th that we're going to make sure everybody knows the registration link here. So what I want to ask you first is on our new digital hub that went live today, y'all can go to my website, gulfcoastfa.com, and then /401k-project. You will see chapter 1 of our retirement educational and planning series, where Matthew and I spent about 30 minutes talking about basically laying out the foundation, 401k plans in a COVID world. And we did that. I think, Matthew, you had a fantastic idea of looking at it, not just from an advisor standpoint and not looking at it from a qualified plan executive standpoint. You wanted to look at it from plan participants, human resources, and from a fiduciary standpoint. So can you kind of lay the groundwork for everybody on what they're going to hear if they dive into that chapter?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really common for us to think about, well, maybe it's anything we do, but retirement plans in particular, it's very common for us to think about issues, just how they affect us and the role that we play, for example. But isn't the right approach really to think about how the perspective changes depending on whose shoes you're standing in or whose seat you're sitting in? And so what we wanted to accomplish with that first video is to say, hey, look, there's a lot of things that are changing. There are a lot of headlines to sift through on a daily basis. There's a lot of new governmental guidance. There's a lot of ongoing litigation. There's a lot of issues that impact day-to-day administration and long-term fiduciaries and participant wellness. Don't we really need to look at it from those three perspectives you just listed? So we're going to walk through the need to start with looking at things from the participant's perspective. Really, why do we even have these plans if we're not thinking about things from that perspective? But then we also want to realize that we've got people working in HR and other areas of the benefits departments within your various organizations who are having to work in a different way than they've ever had before, and perhaps with some limited resources or some renewed challenges. So we want to acknowledge the challenges that they're facing, and ultimately we want to ensure that fiduciaries are in a place where they can feel protected. And this is really important, Josh, too, because, I didn't mention earlier, my background is as an ERISA attorney. So it'd be really easy for me to have started with that fiduciary perspective. It'd be really easy for me to say, hey, the most important thing is to make sure that fiduciaries are protecting themselves. But as you'll hear from us over the course of the next few weeks, that's really not the right order. If we think about things from a participant's perspective first, as you'll hear from us, that's actually the best way to protect fiduciaries. And so we'll go through this journey to help fiduciaries better understand how that happens.
Well, and Matthew, I think that there are so many things that are going on that are as pertinent and as pressing when it comes to these things as we've possibly have ever seen in the retirement plan space. We already had a lot of changes going on anyway. And then, you just take everything, throw it into a big pot and accelerate some of those changes. And I think that one of the concerns that you and I had coming in to this series was the quality of information being presented to people and the delivery of the information and how they interpreted that information, because you can make some fairly significant mistakes when it comes to your retirement plan that have repercussions for the rest of your life. I think one of the things that a note that you and I talked about, and I'd like to bring up here, is in particular with the CARES Act. Is there anything in related to the loan repayment, just some general details you'd like to lay out there and some how that relates to the CARES Act?
Well, I think that's a really good example, Josh. The CARES Act can help us to illustrate how, if we look at things with too much of a myopic viewpoint, where we only look at it from one perspective or at one point in time, we can really miss the boat. And so let's think about, the CARES Act, of course, gave plan participants that ability to stop their repayments for the remainder of the year. Well, wouldn't it be really easy if you're working with a plan and in-plan administration to say, hey, the CARES Act was important to us in late March or early April. And once we made a decision, well, we're through the woods and we just move forward. But what we're really seeing, and again, kind of revisiting those multiple perspectives, when it comes to the various CARES Act provisions, and in particular, that ability to not make loan repayments for the rest of the year, we're getting closer and closer now to the next question, which is, well, wait a minute, how did we communicate that to participants? How do we help participants who maybe initially were not impacted and we thought we were seeing declining COVID-19 numbers, but now that, for a variety of reasons, we're seeing a rise in the number of positive tests, then what do we do to make sure that our employees know what's available to them? And then once we do that, what are we going to be doing when we get into November and December to prepare for those loan repayments restarting? How are we talking internally with our payroll department or our external payroll provider to make sure that that happens? Or what are we doing in light of this recent IRS guidance that says to us, it's kind of complicated to figure out when those new payments should start again.
Right.
You could do it in January. You could do it in April. You could do it in the first payroll period in April, and then a little bit of an increase the next payroll period. And you could do that in May, and you could do that in June. You could do that in July. There's really quite a lot there. And so, frankly, Josh, I'm glad you asked this question, because let me take a step back. Let me talk about kind of the broader approach to this big series. What we want all of you to be able to do as you engage with us is to understand that we've got to figure out how all these pieces fit together. And so what I just described, for example, with the CARES Act, if we merely think about that initial decision up front, then we miss out on the employee communication piece, and we miss out on the plan administration piece, and we miss out on the choices that you might get to make as we move into next year. And so I hope people will continue to stick with us and they'll join us, and we can hear about how all these pieces fit together as we move through those various parts that you pointed out.
Yep. Matthew, that's great. And I want to lay out how we have established this campaign, because it's a multi-part series with different types and pieces of content hosted across different platforms, with a heavy emphasis on LinkedIn here, because that's, quite honestly, that's where a lot of plan sponsors and business owners live, and that's really where a lot of the content is geared. So if you all notice on our video at the bottom there, it says, for more information, visit my website /401k-project. What you will find there is you will find Matthew and I's most up-to-date recordings around these topics. You will find some of the previous podcasts in the past, my Every Dollar Counts podcast that we've done around these topics. You're going to find some, in my opinion, some of the finest industry type articles for the consumer relay these topics provided by Matthew. I really encourage you all to go and click the links on the articles and the blog part of that digital hub. You'll be surprised and impressed. And then there also on the page, you're going to find a link, a registration page that will register you for our August 20th webinar, where we're going to bring all of this campaign over the past several weeks. We're going to bring it all home, and we're going to come in there and really dive deep on what are the 5 things that you really need to be doing this year. I mean, thinking about is one thing, but there's going to be some 5 things that you want to be top of mind as it relates to a qualified plan, particularly you all that are a plan sponsor, plan administrator, business owner, someone providing this to your plan participants. Because Matthew, I'm going to say this, I'm going to lay it over to you to wrap this conversation up. You and I have talked multiple times about the fact you mentioned about bringing the pieces of the puzzle together, not just from a 401k plan perspective, but also bringing it together with why should this matter to the business owner that provides this to his participants and the overall health and financial wellness of organization. How does all that, let's tie that together in a little bit of a bow, and we'll end this live recording with that.
Yeah, sure. It's interesting that the reason to care about your employee benefits in your 401k or your 403b plan in particular, they're plentiful. And we could probably poll all of you and ask you to describe what the most important reason is to you. And we could probably come up with 12, 13, 14 different primary reasons for that. Or we could give you 10 options and ask you to number those in order, and the numbered order would be all over the place. But really what it comes down to is this, is if we have employees who are financially stressed, nothing impacts their productivity, their ability to be good employees and to enjoy life more than financial stress. And so it really becomes this snowball effect where if we can get employees to feel financially secure and somewhat financially confident, then what happens is they're more focused at work, and then they're more efficient, and then they become more productive, and they're there more often, and they're gone less often, and they're not focused on paying their bills as much while they're there, but instead they're saying, I feel pretty good about my long-term financial situation. I'm going to focus on doing everything I can to be really good at my job. And so whether you're a business owner who says, you know what, I provide really good employee benefits because I care about my people, or you're a business owner that says, you know what, I provide good benefits because I figure out that happier people are better employees, or because, you know what, you just say from the bottom line perspective, I want my people focused on work when they're working. Well, that's how you get there. So Josh, I mean, it's all that combined really. And for any business owner out there who's thinking about how those retirement plans work, there's so much untapped potential to be able to reach employees, to make them better employees. And hopefully we can help people uncover some of that.
Well, this is great, Matthew. So let me say this in closing again for you all that are interested in taking this journey with us. You do yourself a couple different favors. One, make sure that you connect with me, Josh Null. Also connect with Matthew Eichmann. Follow him. Make sure you follow Prime Capital Investment Advisors. Make sure you follow Gulf Coast Financial Advisors, Qualified Plan Advisors, and Financial Fitness for Life. Now, what do all those vowels mean? How do they relate? So technically, when Matthew and I have to read disclosures that are various content pieces or events we do, we have to say, we're not affiliated and things like that. What it is a team. I am part of a larger network managed by Prime Capital Investment Advisors. My independent advisory down here in Fairhope, Alabama, is part of this larger organization. As part of that, they have a qualified plan division called Qualified Plan Advisors, which Matthew is head of. And that basically, to sum it up, Matthew, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but in my opinion, it gives me all the firepower of the big guys in the independent space, right? I mean, I come to the table with a lot of firepower and a lot of backing. So y'all that are joining us there, make sure you follow all that. Also, go to our hub, our digital hub. You're going to learn about the future of financial wellness. You've got managing your plan through volatility, and you've got a bunch of stuff on the CARES Act and so much more. It's really good stuff. I'm very excited to share it. Matthew and I mean, not that we had to go out there and physically do a bunch of labor, but we had to put some brain power behind this thing, and it's coming together, man. It's looking good. So I'll let you say the final piece, and then I'll close with the disclosure, and we'll jump out for today.
Well, Josh, I just thank you for having the foresight to try to pull all this together. And we want to set a high bar here to make this really helpful for a lot of people. And so we hope you'll join us and push us on that. Frankly, if you can come to us and tell us that we're not achieving what we set out to do, then we'll endeavor to do more. So again, thanks, Josh. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, make sure y'all bring your questions and anything that you want an answer to, you want to have a discussion about, we're here. That's the point of all this, is create engagement, create discussion, and help all of us navigate this in the best way. So Matthew, pardon me, I'm going to read this disclosure very quickly. Advisory services offered through Prime Capital Investment Advisors, PCIA, a federally registered investment advisor. PCIA doing business as Prime Capital Wealth Management and Qualified Plan Advisors. PCIA and Gulf Coast Financial Advisors not affiliated. All information presented is for educational purposes only. It's not an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Video content offers commentary and generalized research, not personalized investment advice. So I think that's good for today. Matthew, great job again. Lastly, folks, cannot encourage you enough, go visit the Digital Hub, check out the content we have there. Look for Chapter 1 of Matthew and I discussing 401k plans in a COVID world. We do a little deeper dive here than we did here. And then also be looking soon for Chapter 2 coming soon. So Matthew, that's it, man. We did it. We survived our second one.
All right. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate you.
We're getting there. All right. Everybody have a great day. Thank you for joining us.